They won't want it. And then other way around, you will see people, they just love Jamaatana, they just love Imam, but all blind.
Yeah.
No knowledge, don't have any understanding. Yeah. And the reason people get confused when someone asks question, well, how come you go to Jamaatana and how come you don't let other Ismailis come to other non-Ismaili come to Jamaatana? When you can come to our masjid anytime you want. Right? And they don't have any answer. The most answer they may give is, well, our Jamaatana is private. But why? They will not be able to answer it. So when Tariqabad tells us, or when we normally when we talk to each other, that is correct that because we don't have a good answer, we should not talk. But we should have a good answer so we may talk. Because, you go to any religion, you go to any Christian person and you talk about Jesus or Christianity, they will start talking instantly. And the reason is they will have so much information. I would not even call it knowledge. Because even if you talk to a Christian about Jesus or Maryam, the way he became a prophet or where he was hung and the reason, they may not know all that, but they have so much information and they want to give you all that information. They would love to talk. Right? And you come to any other religion, you come to Islam or all other Muslims except Ismailis, they will love to talk because they would have a lot of information again. But as soon as you start talking to them about more than information, the knowledge, then you may find some people, they may have a lot of knowledge about Islam, about the history, or even the Quran. But when you put a finger on one of the surah and ayat, then they will get lost. Because they may know the Quran, the entire Quran. They may be half of the Quran. Especially one of the stories that I love to tell. So I'm not going to go to the entire detailed story. We met this Ismaili guy, and I don't know if you guys remember from back in 60s and 70s, the stories. None of you guys were born back then. But there were so much pressure on Ismaili Jamaat from the Shia Jamaat, Isna Shari especially, to convert from Ismaili to Isna Shari. And they will give you money to convert. There was a lot of Ismaili family, a lot. Half would be Ismaili, within the same family, half will be Isna Shari. So we met this Ali Bhai one time in Karachi. And the amazing part was even those Isna Sharis, when they marry their son, they will always marry with a Ismaili girl. They will always take the Ismailis. They will never marry their sons into Ismaili for whatever reason. So Ismaili girl, Isna Shari boy. Right? So we met them, and of course they are Hafiz al-Quran, they have all this knowledge, lot of information, and we start talking about Quran. And this was long back. I think it was 2005 or something. So like 15 years ago, 14 years ago. So we start talking about Quran, and I was asking because he's Hafiz al-Quran, so I should not even be talking, right? As a Khoja, what do I know about Quran? So we start talking about how many paras are there, and how many surahs are there, how many ayats are there. But we all love Quran now, so we understand that there are 30 paras, and the 30 division was made. It was made to make it easier for the people in Ramzan, so they can read in 30 days evenly. So they divided the Quran in 30 sections. That's what they call para. And then there are 114 surah and 6,666 ayat. So we start to talk about that. I said, if there is 114 surahs, shouldn't it be 114 Bismillah in Quran? He said, yeah, every surah has a Bismillah on top of it. So how many Bismillah there should be? He said 114. But I said, I heard, remember I'm not Hafiz of Quran. I don't know Quran. But I heard one of the surah doesn't have Bismillah on top. And he also remember, right? I said, oh yeah. Surah Toba does not have a Bismillah on top of it. I said, but that makes Quran imperfect. But I always thought Quran was perfect. How can it be that there is 114 surah and there is only 113 Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim? How can it be? Now I puzzled him. Right? Because he was Hafiz of Quran, but he never paid attention to that. He never even gave a second thought. Then he remembered, he said, you know what? No, there is a story behind it. I said, okay, so what is the story? So he told me the story. And we all know this story, right? That, this surah was being revealed and Muhammad was looking for Ali and Ali was nowhere to be found. And so he sent Abu Bakr from Medina to Makkah to give the revelation to the people. So he left on a horse, and all of a sudden another way comes and says, no, this surah only can be taken by the one who's closest to you. He again asked, where is Ali? And Ali is nowhere to be found. So he sent Umar. He said, why don't you go? Because I don't know if you guys know, and how much history do you guys know. Umar was one of the adults who had taken the Islam even before Abu Bakr. So anyway, he sends Abu Bakr and to go and tell the
he sends
Umar to tell Abu Bakr to come back and take the message. So when he left, another revelation comes. He said, no, you need to send somebody who's close to you. At this time, Prophet Muhammad said, no, we need to find Ali. Anyway, they found Ali and Ali came. So when Ali came, Muhammad asked him, where were you? And so anyway, remember, Mullah Ali always had an eye problem. Physically, he had an eye problem. So I think he was suffering from the, whatever eye problem he was having. So he wasn't there. So anyway, when he heard this revelation, the story goes that he runs behind Umar, tell him not to take it and send him back. Then he takes the message. But he was in so much hurry that he forgot to say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. He just forgot to say it. So he got there, he gave the revelation, he got Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Because he didn't say it, the people who wrote it didn't write it because he didn't say it. So that's the story he said. I said, okay, but if that's the case, let's say today I give you something and I say, hey, take this article or piece of paper or whatever, and you see, the envelope that I put it in is not as needy as it needs to be. What would you do? And if you have a nice envelope, what would you do? You will put that in a nice envelope and you may put even the name on it and take it, right? It's from Aziz Bhai and you will take it. And that's natural. When Quran was revealed, all the Asaba, they were close to Muhammad, they were all writing it. Because that's how everybody had the writing of the Quran. After Prophet Muhammad died, even after Osman, or time of the Osman, meaning after Abu Bakr, after Umar, time of the Osman, they collected all those scripts. When they collected all that, would it be easy to just put Bismillah? It wouldn't even make sense to add the Bismillah on top of it. It would make sense. But for whatever reason, they were blocked. They were just blocked and they could not put a Bismillah on top of it. So when I told him that, he said, well, this is Allah's book. How can anybody change anything in it? You could not add Bismillah to it. Bismillah, there would be, sin. What are you talking about? Didn't we not make changes to Quran? He said, no, we didn't. I said, wait a minute, hold on. The surah, the way we see in Surah Alam, Surah Baqarah, Surah Imran, Surah Nisa, they are not in that order. They were not revealed in this order. The order of revelation is different. So we did make changes. We compiled the Quran for the easy reading. All the big surahs, Surah Al-Hamd is the only one which is in front, but if you look at Surah Baqarah compared to Imran, Baqarah will be largest surah with like 285, 288 ayat, and then Surah Imran, and then Surah Nisa, and on and on. And the smallest one, so Surah Al-Iqra is all the way at the end, which was supposed to be all the way at the front, because there's the shortest surah. So they put that at the end. So the order was changed, number one. Then, a couple of 100 years after that, they also added Zer Zabar Pesh. What do we call Zer Zabar Pesh? Arab. They added the Arab to make it easier for non-Arabic people like us to read. Without the Arab, we will not be able to read that, because we will not know where to pull the sound up or down or forward. We will not know. और तशदीद लगाते हैं ना वो? Yeah, so many.
Vowels, right? Huh? So vowels.
That's the shapa. So shapa, what does the shapa does is changes the sound, not the word. From to a, or if you want to use double A, instead of using double A, you can put a and put a power on top of it. So you're supposed to call that a, like Allah, So you add that. Anyway, so we did all these changes. But for whatever reason, they never could add Bismillah. So that was his story. So our story says that the reason, I'm talking about the Shia now, okay? Not Ismaili, but Shia. The Shia story is because this surah is for the repent and punishment. So they don't want to put Bismillah Rahman Rahim, because Bismillah Rahman Rahim is for the mercy. So you cannot have a mercy on top and then you are talking about repent and punishment. So that's the reason they did not add it. Alright, so that makes a little more sense than the first story. But actually, none of this is true. The true is that Allah wanted to have, remember, they always could have added the Bismillah Rahman Rahim, because Quran was edited 4 times. 4 times. The way what we see today, this Quran, this was not like that. This was changed and edited 4 times. There were ayat taken out, surahs taken out. There were full stops added. You know why you would add a full stop, right? The reason you will add a full stop, so you can say, okay, you read from here, you stop here before you go forward. And sometimes when you add a full stop to it, it changes the meaning of an ayat. For example, no one can do a ta'wil but Allah and His Prophet, full stop. Meaning, that's it. And then it says, and ulil amr, or the people of the knowledge, or people amongst you. So the ta'wil only is for Allah and Prophet. And because there is a full stop there, it leaves the ulil amr out. Otherwise would be, no one can do ta'wil but Allah, Prophet and ulil amr. And ulil amr is an open-ended statement. whoever has the Amr can do the Tawil of the Quran. So they added full stop there. So people will stop there and they don't say anyone can do Tawil but those two. So meaning there's no Tawil after that. Right? So they added all these different things, but they could not add Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So our belief is the reason it was not put there, and God truly protected it and made sure that it's not added there. And nobody thought about it, nobody added it. So our story goes that because Allah wanted to give us a symbol is what? That everybody needs to come through a door. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim on the top of every surah is a door to the surah. So you say Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, there's your door, you enter and you read your surah. Then Surah Baqarah, you read that. Until you are on Surah Toba, which is number 9 in the order is printed today, number 9. And then there is no Bismillah. So now how do you enter into the surah without the door? How do you enter? Because door was Ali himself. So Allah says, if you want to enter into the Quran, up to that point, you are good. But if you want to go further into the Quran, you need to enter through the gate or the door of Ali, meaning Imam Zaman, and then you can enter into the surah. Otherwise you cannot enter. And the law of Islam is, if anyone enters into a home without the door, so where would they be entering from? If they don't enter from the door?
Windows.
Windows or jumping from the roof. And what do we call those people? Thieves. Right? And what is the punishment of thief in Islam?
Cut both the hands.
They cut both of their hands off. So Allah is telling us in His wisdomful way that if you enter into the Quran and if you enter from anywhere except the door, then you are like a thief. You are like a thief. So only way you can enter anything further than Surah Toba is through the Imam al-Zaman or the Ulil Amr. The one who has the Amr, you take him as a door and then you can enter. Because he is the door, Ali is the door. Where does it say Ali is the door? Prophet Muhammad himself said, I am the city of knowledge, Ali is the gate. I am the house of wisdom, Ali is his door. What does it mean? If you wanted knowledge, if you want to come into a city, use the gate. And gate is Ali. If you want wisdom, if you want to come into the house, use the door. And door is Ali. Same thing, if you want to come into the Quran and have the guidance of Allah, use the door. And door is Ali. Because Ali is the door, you come from the Ali, use the door of Ali, meaning you accept Ali and then you come into the Quran. And when they don't use the door, they still come into the Quran. Because they're coming into Quran without using the door, and you will find the ayat in Quran which says, don't enter into the houses from the back doors. Why would Allah say that? This ayat by itself does not make any sense. When you call that we are coming, did she say use the front door? Nobody says that. Allah, who is the wise and the most merciful, most knowing, why would He say that? They don't come in the house from the back door. Nobody says that. That does not make logic. So what He was trying to say? Use the front door and the door of the Quran, door of the knowledge, door of the wisdom is the Imam of the time. At that time, Maula Ali. You come through him, and all the knowledge is yours, all the wisdom is yours, all the guidance of Quran is yours. But if you don't, then you are as a thief. And the punishment of a thief is to cut both of his hands. So then we say this why we see all these Muslims. How many? 1.2 billion. They are reading Quran and they are coming into the Quran without using the door. They don't all believe in Imam. Matter of fact, majority don't. We are only 12 million compared to 1.2 billion. They are all coming into Quran. So did Allah keep His promise? He says, if you are a thief, and this is a punishment in Islam, then He should have cut all of their hands. All the Muslims should be without arms. But we don't see that. So what does it mean? Allah is saying, if you are coming into the Quran, and if you try to steal the knowledge, the guidance, the wisdom from the Quran, I'm going to cut your arms. And that is your soul and your intellect. I'm going to cut both of your arms. Meaning, you will not have any soul. And you will not have any intellect. So are we saying that all the Muslims are without soul and without intellect? No. When they come to Quran, they will not understand anything. Because a person without soul is what? A dead body. Doesn't matter how much Quran you recite on top of the dead body, the body is gone. Their soul is gone. Because their soul is gone, because their intellect is gone, they cannot find the interpretation, they cannot find the wisdom, they cannot find anything in the Quran. It's like a dead person. If they had kept Ali as a door, as Prophet Muhammad had asked them in AZIZ Saklan, you hold on to my Ithras, my progeny, and the book together. Then you will not go sect by sect. You all be together as one. Then this Quran will give them all the wisdom, and we will not see all these fights and wars amongst Muslims. The reason is because there is no guidance, no wisdom for them in the Quran today. So only interpretation, and this is Imam's farman now, the Quran and its interpretation is for us only. How can it be for us only? Because we have the Imam as Zaman. We have the door. And with the door, we can enter. Because we are using the door, we have a soul and intellect intact. And we will be able to understand, we will be able to follow it, we will be able to take it further and give to whoever wish to learn. And if we, as an Ismaili, if we don't use the Quran, we will not be able to talk to anybody else. Let's take today's generation. Do they understand Ginan? No, because it's in different language. They don't understand it. Matter of fact, half of my generation doesn't understand Ginan. Because the Sanskrit and the Gujarati language was used in Ginan is just not a normal language. So how do we understand Ginan? Then you take Faramin. Somebody can say, well, Faramis are in simple English. We can lay down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 Faraman in front of you. And you read them, you will not be able to explain. Faraman is even harder than Quran. Because the Imam uses words and the languages and verbiage that we don't even understand what Imam is really asking us to. And there are so many examples of that. So what else do we have left? Especially to talk to our new generation or talk to other non-Ismailis. We cannot talk to other non-Ismailis with Farman or Ginan. So what do we have left? Only thing common we have is Quran. But we must have enough knowledge of our tariqah first. And then we should have enough knowledge of the Quran, the history of Quran, and then the meaning of the Quran, and the way we're supposed to read the Quran. Even if someone says, okay, well, I read the Quran. Let's find a smiley who says, okay, I'm Hafiz of Quran, or I'm not Hafiz of Quran, but I do read the Quran all the time. And then you sit him down and you start to explain the way Quran is supposed to be read, they'll be shocked. Because if they are reading the translation, half of the translation is not correct. And then if the translation is correct, half of the understanding is not correct. And if they do understand some of those things, half of the hidden meaning, interpretations, they will not be able to understand unless they have the nur or the guidance of the Imam of the time. Because the interpretation changes with the time. Interpretation changes with the time. So with the Imam's wisdom, meaning the Imam is the man's wisdom and guidance, one can read the Quran for this time, for today's, not for yesterday. Because Quran is not a book of a story, it's a book of guidance for the people for all the time. So some of the ayat, if you read, looks like it's talking about the chopaye, the four-legged animals. They will carry your burden for you. We don't use horses or donkeys or camels today. So are we saying that ayat is irrelevant today? Because if you take the Quran as a book of story and limit that into the past, then half of the ayat will be irrelevant to us today. Meaning the Quran is not a book of guidance anymore. Or not completely it's not, but it cannot be. Quran is a book of guidance for people all the time. Even today it has to make as much sense and logic as it did 1400 years ago, or 1000 years ago, or 500 years ago. And going forward, it should make logic and sense even going forward 500 years ago. So how do we read Quran? Someone can open a Quran and say, here, there is Surah Al-Hamd, which is the easiest surah, we recite it 3 times a day. Tell me how to read this ayat. Show me the meaning of it. Show me the understanding of it. And when they understand that, then they will say, oh, I've been reciting the Surah Al-Hamd all this time, and I thought it was just simple meaning as, is in the name of Allah, and He's Rahman and Rahim, He's the judge of the day of Qiyamah, and we are asking for His help, and we only do His ibadah, and please keep us on Sirat al-Mustaqim, and please keep us away from the others. They will say that. But that's just a translation. How do we understand Surah Al-Hamd? Because without Surah Al-Hamd and its understanding, the rest of the Quran you cannot even understand. Because the keys, the mercy and the interpretation and the understanding of the Quran sits in Surah Al-Hamd. It's sitting right there in front. So one cannot even move forward. And look at just the very first, not even complete verse of Surah Al-Baqarah that says, there is no doubt in that book. So which book is Allah talking about? He said, there is no doubt in that book. What that book? Is he talking about this book or that book? Which one is that book? And what does he mean there is no doubt? You see how a person, especially Ismaili, should read the Quran with a critical thinking, with the barik beneath it.
Critical thinking.
Right? Barik beneath it. You should see the Quran and stop at those underlined words. And what does Imam say? When you read Quran, I think Imam uses when and if you read Quran, it should bring a concept to you. It should bring a concept to you. So what concept do we have when we're reading Surah Al-Anfal? What concept does it bring when we read this ayat? That there is no doubt in that book. What concept does it bring when we read Alif Lam Mim? But Imam says when you read Quran, and if you read the Quran, it should bring a concept to you. Only way it can happen if we read the way Imam is asking us to read. That's how we would do it. So I think I'm going to stop here. This is a discussion we can all talk.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, take
So
it.
my question is,
Yeah.
the Quran as is right now,